50 movies in 50 weeks. I'm your host, Joey Hollywood, and I'm trying to get through all 50 movies in this 50 movie box set in 50 weeks. The movie I watched today was called White Zombie from the year 1932, which I believe was the same year as Dracula. And if I'm wrong about that, I'm sure someone in the comment section will point it out. So I've seen this movie probably a minimum of 10 times. And every time I watch it, I don't really remember much about it. I know this movie has an enormous cult following, and I can see it. It's a very atmospheric movie. It's a very interesting premise for a movie. I think it has a good atmosphere. If I haven't said that already, I probably just said that. Sorry. I know this is the greatest of YouTube content here, but yeah, I like the idea of this movie, but it never sticks with me enough for me to really enjoy it or at least recommend it to people. And I think maybe that's because I've never seen a proper print of the movie. The print that's available on this set is not the greatest. The sound quality is particularly poor on this box set. And it makes me wish that I, at one point in my life, gotten a Blu-ray of this movie. Because I know it exists. I believe Kino released a Blu-ray of it. And I think that would really elevate my enjoyment of the movie. But as it is, it's just a fine bit of history that I watch on occasion and then completely forget about shortly after. Even now, I just saw this movie yesterday. I'm struggling to remember a lot of things that happened in it. There is the main plot, which I can tell you right now. A couple moves to this foreign land where there is Bela Lugosi, who's made an army of zombies, and these zombies, I think, are the first depictions of zombies that are the living dead, or at least he calls them the living dead. By the end of the movie, it looks like they're just hypnotized. There's a bit of a blending of what it is to be a zombie in here. I don't think it was fully fleshed out till something like Plague of the Zombies, or even Night of the Living Dead, which I think is the big marker where it's like that's when zombies became the living dead and not just people who were hypnotized. Even though I believe Hammer did it first, Night of the Living Dead is the one that really propelled that depiction into the mainstream consciousness. But this movie, they do say they're the living dead, even though I question that. And it's interesting. There's a lot of shots in here where it's like Bela Lugosi's eyes, which were later used for the sequel, despite the fact that Bela Lugosi's not in the sequel, but his eyes are. And I actually remember the sequel far better than the original, even though everyone will tell you the sequel is inferior. And I'll get into that later. I'm sure that's on this box set. That's like I think that movie's called Revolt of the Zombies. And as a kid, everyone gave me those like movie packs like this, but they had like 10 movies on them. And they always had Night of the Living Dead, White Zombie, King of the Zombies, and Revolt of the Zombies. Those were just a given. They were on these sets. So I've seen this movie a lot. Even now, even after just watching it, I can't retain a whole lot from it. It's not a bad movie, by the way. It just doesn't stick to my mind as well. You know, it just slides right off my brain like important things like math. One thing though that I think really elevates this movie from some of the other fare that's probably going to be on this box set is the sheer size of these sets. They're so impressive. It's probably part of the reason why I'd like to see this in HD, because the sets are massive in this movie. They're so cool, and I'd like to see... I think at some point I will watch this again in a proper restoration, because they're very, very interesting. And it's kind of limiting to watch these movies and review them, because I'm not so much reviewing the movie, I'm reviewing the experience of this box set. And I feel that at times that handicaps me. Towards the end of the movie, there's this bird that is squawking, but it sounds like screaming, and it's so obnoxious. But I think the best part of this movie is the climax. The climax is super memorable. It's honestly, going into it, the climax was the only thing I really remembered. That and Bela Lugosi's eyes. This is despite the fact that it probably sounds like I'm crapping all over the movie, I do think this is a good movie. I do think it is worth your time, not just in a historical sense, but just in a, just a fun Halloween time movie. I think this is a good movie to throw on during Halloween, along with stuff like The House on Haunted Hill, or Night of the Living Dead, or stuff like that. I think this is fun, little fun fare for that season. And I will. I already know I will see this movie again in my future, and I recommend you guys check it out if you haven't already. If you're watching these videos, you've probably already seen this movie. But yeah, I like it despite the fact that I'm not the biggest fan of it, and I recommend it. And before I repeat myself too much, I'm going to wish you all a farewell. I'll see you next week. Remember, please be kind and rewind.